Do you need ambition to be able to retire early? I didn't. I retired at 59 with a little more than $500,000 to my name. I think sometimes ambition causes problems. Depending on the kind of person you are, it can cause problems. I'll tell you how I retired with not much ambition after I tell you a little bit of backstory. So when I was in high school, I didn't have much ambition. I might have got, I don't know, B's. I think I was smart enough. I just didn't have the ambition, like a lot of my other classmates did, to go to that 4-year college. I had a lot of friends. Got out of high school. Boom, went to a 4-year college. UCLA, UC Berkeley, even on the East Coast, Penn State, whatever. It just wasn't in me. It just, for whatever reason, it was not in me. So I figured, okay, I'll go to community college. Went to a community college for about 2.5 years. After that, you're pretty much done with community college, right? If you're not done in like 2-3 years, boom, you're out, man, you're out. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So what I do, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for 6 months. Got straight C's, didn't study at all, just chasing women left and right. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have the ambition to find out. So my mom kicked me out. She said, look, no more of this expensive college stuff. You are going to a trade school to learn something to do. So you have something to do with your life. I'm like, okay, I'll go, Mom. Thanks. So I went to a trade school, drafting school for 2 years. Ended up doing pretty good, and I actually liked it. After that 2 years, they hired me on as a drafting instructor. Okay, so I did that for another 2-3 years. Now, by that time, I was about 26. Looking around, thinking, do I really want to do this drafting instructor thing? No, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do, guys. And I didn't have the ambition to find out. So I go, okay, let's go back to school. I always had fun in school, right? So I applied to UCLA, and I don't think it was for my grades. I think it was for my work experience of being an instructor for 2.5 years, I think. I got in. Great. So what I do when I was at UCLA? Screwed around for like 1.5 years, straight C's again, maybe B minus, I don't know, something like that. I just didn't have the ambition to go do something, to make something with my life. How did that change, or did it change? The only reason I was able to eventually graduate and get into UC Berkeley for the MBA program is in my second year at UCLA, I met a girl. She was great. She was awesome. One of the most ambitious people I've ever met in my life. By the time she was 30, she was a vice president at a film production company. So she was always studying, and I liked her. So what I do to be around her, I studied. Ended up getting straight A's for my last 1.5 years at UCLA. So I always had the ability, I just didn't have the drive. I didn't have the ambition. So because of that, because of meeting her, kind of like forced me to study, got into UC Berkeley. You talk about ambitious people, my God. The most ambitious people I've ever met in my life. One went on to become the lieutenant governor of California. Another went on to be on the board of the board of the Wall Street Journal. I mean, I think the class was maybe 250 people. I was probably the least ambitious there. No lie. You talk about type A personalities. I'm a type Z. Z as in Z. Now, there is nothing wrong with being a type A personality. If that's you, great. Do what you got to do. I'm envious of some of those really ambitious people. I really am. But it's just not in me. It never was. So I graduated from Berkeley. Got in the music industry, not really from anything that I did, of looking at my past going, you know what, he'd be a good employee. I just happened to luck out by sending a resume to a vice president in publicity who thought it'd be kind of cool to have an assistant with an MBA. Okay, great. So I was an assistant. Did it bother me? No. I loved the company. I loved the music industry. I was having so much fun. If I got ahead, I got ahead, right? For me, at that age, 30, 31, the ambition still wasn't there to go out and do something, make something of myself. I was having a great time, man. It was awesome. So, about 6, 7 years into this, I was now a manager. Not a high-level manager, didn't have a staff below me or anything. But the job came up, a senior director of, can't even remember what it was, production. Senior director of production, making CDs. So I went for it. Why? Because I, for once in my life, I looked around and said, you know what? All my friends are far outstripping me as far as titles, as far as salary. I said, why don't I give it a shot? What the heck, man? So I interviewed for it. Got the job on the Friday. Over the weekend, though, I got in contact with the guy who had the job who was leaving. Talked to him on a Saturday after being offered the job on Friday. He told me he was working 6 days a week, at least 12 hours a day. Now, for someone with no little ambition, the last thing you want is responsibility, pressure. I could deal with it throughout my career. I could deal with it for a short period of time. But if that's what the job entailed, if that's what every single day was going to be like, I didn't want it. So what did I do? I turned the job down on Monday. That job turned into a vice president position in about a year and a half or two. It wasn't that big a deal. I didn't want to deal with the responsibility, the additional pressure. Just a little about me. Throughout my life, if I've been in a position that has heavy responsibility, heavy pressure, I can deal with it for a while. I'm good. But if it's a long-term thing, I tend to get depressed. I tend to get very anxious. So this is just the way that I am made up. Psychologically, physiologically, it's just the way I'm made up. And I knew that. So that's why I turned that job down. Okay? So what did I do? I reached 40 and I'm looking around going, you know what? I think I want to retire someday. So I started saving. I started saving a little when I was 35, not much though. You know, I really became diligent at 40. So retiring early is not about ambition. It's about knowing what you want to do and doing it, being consistent, being diligent. I just started saving money at 40 and I did not stop. Where in the past, could have been I went to an apartment with a bigger rent. Oh, don't worry, I'll cut back on my contributions to pay the rent. No, I was very diligent from 40 on. Save, save, save. I started looking at, you know, how do you retire? What do you need to do to retire? I had no idea I could retire early, but you know what? After about 10, 15 years of that, you look at your balance and the magic of compounding, your balance just takes off, okay? So what it comes down to, guys, is yes, as long as you're diligent, I was a low-level manager for most of my career in the music business, okay? Last 3 jobs I had, I was an analyst, I was a buyer, and also another buyer. Those aren't big prestigious jobs, you know? Anyone can retire early as long as you're diligent. Make your mind up to do this. Do it as early as possible. Start saving as early as possible. You can do it like I did. You don't need to be a vice president to retire at 48. Well, okay, 48. Okay, that might be a little early if you're just, a normal job. Let's say 55. Okay? Just be diligent in your saving. And you know what else? Along, at least in my experience and other people I know, along with ambition comes a lot of problems, a lot of issues, a lot of fast-paced stuff. I know some very ambitious people that are not very happy. What are you happy with? What makes you happy? I'm happy sitting on my deck here in the high desert, reading a book and looking out at the lake. That makes me happy. I've never been one to go on big, expensive vacations. I've never been one to go out, at high dining. Hey, every once in a while for like someone's birthday or something, great. But it's just not me. I'm happy with the simple things. I really am. And throughout my working life, the more pressure, the more responsibility I had. Now, is that a detriment to me? Is that something that's just wrong? Hey, I don't care, man. I know what made me happy and what didn't make me happy. And I think because I had put off all that pressure, that responsibility, I've kept my health. I'm healthy now. I'm happy now. Who knows if I would have accepted that responsibility? My blood pressure could have gone up. All kinds of stuff, depression, anxiety. That's just me. You have to know what works for you. Don't let society just pressure you into ambition. And one good thing, guys, regardless, when you get to a retirement, all that societal pressure is gone. You do you. You be you. However you want to define that. There is no more societal pressure to, you better be ambitious or you're not going to do anything with your life. No. Retirement is heaven. Especially if you have no ambition. Because what are you doing most of the day? Not much. All right? So there you go, guys. That's my story. Don't be discouraged. Don't think you need a high-powered position to retire early. You don't. Just be diligent. Just know what you want to do and stick to it. Be consistent, and you'll be able to do it just like me. And as always, from the high desert, we got this.